Hello and welcome back to my channel once again. I am Victoria, your host, and this is my second channel. Wait a second, this is my third channel, but this is my first channel in English. So just keep that in mind, I guess. So my mother tongue, my first language, is Spanish, actually. So I don't know, be patient. In here, I talk about Latin American cases, so more people can learn about them. So just give it a like, subscribe if you want to, support this kind of thing, because I really, really want more people to know about these cases. We have a lot, sadly, and because they are in Spanish, not a lot of people, from all over the world know about them. So well, that's it for the introduction, because today we have a very sad and heartbreaking case. We're going to talk about Katya Miranda, a very well-known case in El Salvador. Whenever I talk about any crime, I like to go back and talk about the early life and the years before the case to figure out the context. However, Katya was only 9 years old when she was murdered, so there's not a lot to talk about before her tragic death. Her case is an example of corruption, impunity, and systematic violence in El Salvador, so without further ado, let's begin the story. She was Katya Natalia Miranda Jimenez, was born on March 13th, 1990 in El Salvador and died in the morning of the 4th of April of 1999. She was found dead on the beach Los Blancos near her grandfather's ranch in the town of San Luis, Talpa. That weekend, Katya's mother, Hilda Maria Jimenez, took her two daughters to the grandfather's ranch on the beach. They were celebrating Easter with her family and friends, and the place was full of people. Katya's mother, however, could not stay with her daughters that weekend, since she had to attend church in her hometown to help with the Easter celebrations. At first, Hilda wanted to take her daughters with her, but their father, Edwin Miranda, told her to leave them with him, saying there's not going to be any problem with this. They had a discussion about what they would do with the girls, but at the end, Hilda left them with her father. That very same night, Edwin decided to go camping at the beach with her daughters and the rest of their guests at the party. The morning of the 4th of April, the family called Hilda to tell her Katya had been found dead. At first, people thought she had drowned because that's, the most common thought you can have on a beach. And the family buried her thinking it had been all just a tragic incident. Edwin slept that night in a tent with his two daughters, and he told the police later he heard Katya waking up and leaving the tent. But Hilda never believed his side of the story. In several interviews, she declared her daughter was a shy and responsible child, who always asked for permission to do anything. It was simply unbelievable to anyone who knew her that she simply decided to leave in the middle of the night, and also that her father wouldn't stop her. These suspicions were finally confirmed a month after her death, when the forensic department of the police determined Katya had not drowned to death. Instead, she had been taken out of her tent by force, raped, murdered, and then thrown to the ocean. The crime scene had been manipulated by employees of the Miranda family. Among the irregularities, Katya's father and her grandfather, Carlos Miranda Gonzalez, took her body to the town courthouse instead of leaving it where it was. They also took off her clothes and returned them all washed up and clean to the police after weeks. In summary, they did significant changes to the body and the crime scene. Katya's father was at the moment a captain in the army, and he was in charge of the presidential security. Meanwhile, Katya's uncle, Godofredo Miranda, was second in command of the Criminal Investigation Department of the National Securities of El Salvador, and was present the night of the attack as well. The ranch was full of friends of both men, who were part of the army and the police forces. In January of 2000, Katya's father and grandfather were both arrested and judged on trial. Katya's father was charged for the disappearance of Katya, while her grandfather was accused of rape and murder. But in the end, both were finally absolved of all charges due to the lack of proof. The district attorney in charge of the case, Belisario Artiga, closed the case in 2001 and finally retired in 2005 after not having found any other suspects. The failed trial motivated Katya's mother to organize a national campaign to find the people responsible for her daughter's crime, and with the help of the Human Rights Institute of the University of Central America, they began its own independent investigation on the case. In 2004, Hilda Maria Jimenez had to request political asylum in the United States after being threatened. Her other daughter, her family, and many journalists who were covering the case were also threatened. At last, Hilda fled the country with her other daughter and has since then lived abroad. It looked like Katya's case was going to be unsolved and lost in time, but in 2009 things took another turn. The National Federal Prosecutors publicly apologized to Katya's mother for the terrible management of the case, and they arrested 7 new suspects, Katya's grandfather among them. The new district attorney in charge, Felix Garrid Safie, had a suspicion Katya's grandfather was behind the crime as a setup to ambush an old enemy of the family. They could puzzle up many new testimonies from employees and friends present the night of the attack. Along with these testimonies, Katya's sister, who was just 7 years old the night her sister died, declared several times both she and her sister were constantly abused by older family members, and she recalls how her father, uncle, and grandfather used to kiss Katya on the mouth. With all these new testimonies, the attorney managed to develop a theory of what could have happened that is simply terrifying. Katya's grandfather paid a criminal band to kidnap the little girl so that he could blame this enemy of his. The night of the attack, he sedated Katya while she was asleep and took her out of her tent. On the beach, the band was waiting for Carlos Miranda to show up with the girl, but when they saw her, they thought she was dead and refused to take her with them. This is why the grandfather had to change his plans and create another fake scenario. Well, he didn't have to, but he wanted to. When Katya woke up, the man abused her and then suffocated her on the sand until she died. In El Salvador, cases can be prescribed, meaning they have an expiration date. After a certain amount of years, you cannot be judged for the same crime. So the reopening of the case was a very unusual situation, since it had been the first time a rape and murder case was reopened after being closed for more than 10 years, and it was even more unusual than the same people were judged once again for the crime. For Katya's mother, this was the light of a new hope for justice. She said, "I hope the investigation helps to fight against sexual violence on children." On March 16th of 2011, Katya's grandfather was found guilty of kidnapping Katya, but not raping and murdering her, since he could not be judged for that due to the law I just explained. But nevertheless, he was sentenced to 13 years in prison, and along with him, another 6 people were sentenced for the crime as accomplices of Carlos Miranda. However, 3 years later, Miranda was freed since the Supreme Court of Justice determined he couldn't be judged twice on the same case, despite the charges being different, since he had already been judged for the crime of his granddaughter in the year 2000. The court also absolved the other 6 people who had been sentenced along with him. This decision was made by 3 substitute judges, Ricardo Zamora, Juan Antonio Duran, and Ramon Ivan Garcia. During that time period, Luis Martinez was ahead of the federal prosecutor, and he didn't do anything to stop the situation. As a matter of fact, Garcia and Martinez used to do favors to each other, releasing people and lowering sentences. Nowadays, Luis Martinez is in jail for corruption, evidently. Carlos Miranda finally passed away on October 4th of 2018 from health complications. He had only spent 3 years in jail for his crimes and died in total freedom. Despite the claims for justice all across the country, Katya's crime is still unsolved, and it's just one of the many crimes in El Salvador that haven't been solved and probably won't be. The journalist Héctor Silva Avalos wrote in 2014, "Katya's Miranda's story is a clear explanation of how the people in charge of the justice are many times the principal suspects." Katya became a symbol for the fight against child abuse. In El Salvador, there's an estimate that 1 child a day is abused. The Institute of Development of Childhood and Teenagehood confirmed that abuse and rape among children is an everyday reality in the country. In almost all the cases, the abuse is done by family members or friends of the family of the child. Ima Girola, director of the Institute of Women Studies of El Salvador, affirmed, "These cases denote a high tolerance from society to violence and the fragility of the state who can't guarantee any human rights. These statistics show the family home is the most insecure place for women, girls, and teenagers." So that is the case of Katya Miranda. It is really hurtful. In fact, to be completely honest, I could have made it longer, and I think I will for my main channel. I think I'm going to explain it further in Spanish, but it's going to take some time because it's horrible. It's so horrible. It makes me feel horrible. I can't... How? Why? I can't It really makes me mad that there's people that would do things like this. And it's not just a one-off thing, you know, someone that is, you know, problematic or has some type of problem in their mind. No. I really don't get how a person could be this bad. How a person could be this horrible. It's not an exception. It's not something that happens once in a, you know, like 3 years or something like that. It happens all the time. And it's not also people that have a problem in their mind. It's not. It's actually people that are in full capacity in all of their senses and just choose to be violent towards children and other people and women and just in general being bad people. I don't get it. Because we know the world is full of violence. We know that and we accept that. But just, you know, step aside just for one moment. Think about it. It's ridiculous. I sometimes stop and, you know, just think about these things, how people are murdered or just how people are taken. And I'm like, how are we letting that happen? How are we taking this like it's normal? Yeah, it's normal. That's the sad thing. It's not good. It's not fair. And it shouldn't happen. And why are we protecting them? Why is a system built to protect them? It's insane. It's insane. But well, okay, you see where I'm going? Like, this is going to take so much out of me to make for the main channel. I don't know what I'm going to do. I want to talk about this on my main channel, but it's gonna be a long time till that happens. I have so many thoughts, and I need to, you know, like compress them, you know, analyze them, simplify them, and then talk about them. So, well, that's it for today. I'm sorry I lashed out like that. I'm sorry. I'll be back next week, I hope. So, well, just subscribe, like the video if you want to see more like this, and please share so we can all, you know, experience these stories so we can make a better world, hopefully. You know how it's said, you learn history to learn from it and not make the same mistakes. Well, I hope this works in the long run, you know, like in many years, we can experience a better world. I hope, but well, I don't know. I'm so sad now. I don't know what to do. Well, I'll see you next week. So, bye-bye. I don't know how to say hi in this channel, so goodbye.